Hey everybody, it's Josh High here with Swift Home Mortgage, and today I have a special guest, David Hardy's joining me. He's actually a loan officer here at the company, but before he was a loan officer, he was a United States Marine Corps veteran and a client here at Swift Home Mortgage. Back in 2018, we helped him buy his first house, and I thought it'd be a good idea for us to talk about his experience as a veteran, as an active duty service member, and then how that relates to VA home loan entitlement and the benefit that comes along with that home loan. I wanted to kind of interview him and see what he thinks about the process, how he was informed when he was in, when he was out, and just have a talk with him about what he feels like there. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with things. David, David.
Hello, everybody.
Make your acquaintance. So let's go ahead and get started. Tell me about your time in the Marine Corps and what made you decide to join, and what did you do when you were in?
So I joined because my father was a Marine. A lot of those old timers, if they had sons that were going into the service, my dad was more so a guy that was, if you ever join the service, you're either going to be a Marine or you're going to change your last name, that type of situation. So I didn't really have too much of a choice. That was, plus I wanted the challenge coming out of college and stuff. So what I did in the Marines, I was amphibious assault, which is 1833, which is basically an amphibious assault vehicle. It looks like a tank, but it's a track.
Those float, right?
Those float, and they're basically troop transports from a Navy vessel to the shore. And it's one of the most unique and oldest MOSs in the Marine Corps.
Wow, that's cool. That's like the definition of Marines, right?
We love it.
Sea to land.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. What did you do immediately after your service was over? What were you doing then?
I actually got out because I took an early out program to start working as a promotional, when I got a promotion, when I was working at a company called the Laser Spine Institute. I was helping doing face-to-face consultations with spinal patients that were in dire pain, trying to get an outpatient surgery for their spine.
So you're like the liaison between the clinic and the patients.
I did a lot of quoting for insurances, a lot of explanation. Once they spoke with the doctor, patients had a lot of questions and would kind of be freaked out and scared about like what the doctor just said, and I would kind of calm them down and answer all the questions along the specifics. But that also got me into a very comfortable conversation about how financing works, which I feel like is a good transition as to what got me into ending in the first place.
Right, that's kind of what we do here.
Yeah.
So at what point in your life did you decide to purchase your first home?
So I didn't really think it was too possible for me to be able to do that, because I was kind of overwhelmed at it. This thought of buying a house was kind of scary.
It's like a big boy decision.
Yeah, I was like, am I there yet? And once I got out of the Marines and I knew that I wasn't going to be moved around or deployed or something like that, that's what kind of got me focused on trying to look into that decision. And then I didn't know where to start. I had no idea where to start. So I just kind of leaned on friends that knew people that I knew that were already in the industry. A friend of mine, Tara Burley, had already worked in title, and I kind of leaned on her a little bit and said, where do I start? And that's what actually who got me in contact with you.
Yep, I remember. So being in the service during your time in and then your time out, that those years you spent outside of the service, what did you know about the VA loan benefit, like in general? Everybody kind of knows something about it, but it gets complicated and convoluted the more you look into it.
I knew the VA helped. I didn't know how much, and I knew that from my dad only, that the VA loan product, the VA loan was the best type of loan that was possible, but I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
Compared to what?
What do you mean by that? Is it cheaper? Is it money? Like what do you?
Is it the most secure? Is it something that has less issues? Is it something that's easier to do? What do you mean by that? I had no idea. And my dad wasn't necessarily the person that knew the ins and outs of all the different loan products. So I never really asked that question.
Okay. During your time in or out, did anyone from the VA or from the military in general ever explain anything to you, like about the whole process when it comes time to separate? Hey, this is if you're going to settle down somewhere, here's your loan. This is what you have to do. Like, what was information readily available about how to use the VA home loan benefit and like all the other VA benefits that are out there too, like GI Bill, medical, retirement, separation, all that stuff. What's it like from a service member's perspective getting that information? Do you have to go turn over rocks looking for it, or is there a resource there to say, hey, we got everything you need to know, just come see us?
I think there are resources set up within the VA and within each individual branch as well that is set up a little bit different. There might be some training courses that you have on certain classes or certain things that some of your higher ups try to teach to the units, but one of the ones that we never got. I can only speak from my experience, and I can say that most people that I have actually spoke with that are veterans now that I'm a loan officer about this also have agreed with me that there was never a time that anybody ever explained how the VA benefit works with the home loan, where to start, how good of an actual product it is. Like, it's one of our largest benefits as being military member.
Financial benefit.
Huge.
It's a huge benefit.
It's huge.
Pocketbook.
I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a 100% disabled veteran and they have no idea the benefits that they have on tax deductions from, just having conversation with, some of these 100% disabled, whether they be young or older vets. It doesn't matter. I've met guys that are, 32, 34, 36 years old with 100% disability because something happened to them when they were, in or something, they have these ailments and they have no idea what type of benefits there are because nobody ever really explained it. And that was the same for me. That was my experience, is that nobody ever got into that with me. Nobody ever really explained where to start, where to really get a footing on if I was interested in buying a house. I had to kind of search it myself. I'm sure the information is there, and like most of the time, they just tell you
it's all on a website.
It's all on a website in VA, yeah. But there's 50 different types of websites depending on what it is that it's not all in one little area. And even if it is, you'd have to dig and read and read and read. And some of that information actually is not going to be applicable to what actually happens with VA loan.
Confusing. Yeah. It's like reading a legal document sometimes. It's not your normal verbiage, the way that you talk. So it's some of that stuff might be missed. Exactly over your head with that.
I would say if I were to read out the VA handbook on the VA loan right now, some of the information is definitely not going to be applicable to what United Wholesale Mortgage or Freedom Home Loans allows you to be able to do because of underlays. It's not the same information. It's not going to really connect unless you are literally a loan officer. So that's why I encourage people to at least have a conversation with somebody that understands the VA loans.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good info. So knowing what you know about VA loans now, after you've been a home buyer, a refinance client, when rates dropped, you took advantage of the early program. You've helped multiple people with VA benefits secure a home. So knowing what you know now, do you ever think a veteran should avoid using a VA loan?
There are very small percentage circumstances to where it doesn't make sense for a veteran to use the VA loan over, another type of product. In the amount of time that we've been doing this, even with examples that you and I have gone over, I feel like we've only found maybe one person that it was a better option technically, smart-wise or financially, to be able to go with a conventional loan or an FHA loan over a VA loan.
Yeah. And some things I think are, could come into play there. I think, occupancy could be a big one of those. If they're kind of skirting the second home, is it really going to be a second home, or is it really going to be your primary? I had a case a few years ago where Colonel was coming out due to separate in the next 6 months, and he wanted to buy a house in Apollo Beach, but he was still stationed in Wyoming in the Air Force, and he didn't intend to occupy this property until like a year from now, or a year from closing. And VA they frown upon that. VA's primary only, no investments, no second homes. And he had a big, very sizable down payment. He was putting like 35% down on it. So once you get into that territory of a conventional versus VA with a big down payment and some occupancy issues, then, let's go ahead and stick with conventional, because it's no gray area. You're buying it as a second home, and it's all on the up and up.
Yeah, sometimes maybe somebody has a poor standing with their first VA loan. Maybe they bought used the VA loan as their first purchase when they were much, much younger, and then now later parts of life they're trying to reestablish a better financial footing.
Yeah.
And where they left off with their previous VA loan makes it to where it's more difficult to be able to use it.
But at the end of the day, it really is rare.
Yeah.
There's this population, maybe 1 out of 100. Yeah, if it comes to that, maybe even less than that.
And I'd say the biggest thing that I've taken from learning so much about the VA loan is the fact that I've realized how many veterans don't realize how easy it actually is to buy a house. And
yeah, there's really no difference. Once we get it knocked out, we know that you're approved. We got your eligibility.
It's way
my favorite loan all day long.
And I had a couple Marine Corps buddies that I literally had to twist their arm a little bit. Like, I'm telling you, this is easier.
Your own goods. Is
easier. I'm trying to help you. And they still reach out to me today and say, man, I'm so bad at this. And
yeah,
it works out pretty well.
So what advice would you give to service members, active or separated, considering the purchasing a home? And what advice would you give to them as they're about to transition? As about to come out of the military, about to settle down. What kind of pointers or tips or guidance would you give those people?
I would say 2 things. One would be get a copy of every single thing that you've ever had document-wise in the military.
Related to like paying.
Oh my God.
Service. Service 14.
Yes.
Point statement.
Yes. TD-214 point statement. COE if you can get it. Those.
So we'll always get your COE for you.
Yeah.
If you don't have it.
Yeah.
We got a portal of the VA. We log right in there and get it directly.
But at the same time, if you can have it on hand, it's so much easier. How difficult was it, even to get my COE? We had a situation to where at one point in time, because of my reservist status, that the COE was all difficult.
Yeah, there were
VA was good.
Multiple to pull yours. Yeah, and sometimes we run into that, but we got it.
Yeah,
end of the day, it went through. We got what we needed.
So I would say keep a copy of all documentation that you possibly can, because it's only going to help whoever's going to help you when you get out of the service or whenever you get into the actual VA loan aspect of it. And then 2, for active duty service members, for current service members, or for even retired or prior service members. I would just say know what you've earned. Understand and get a better information in one-on-one conversation with somebody who knows how these benefits work and knows how these loan products work, because you've earned the right to be able to use them. So it's important to know what kind of options that you have that you've unlocked for yourself. Reap those benefits.
Super true. Yeah, absolutely. So how are you using your experience in the Marines, that whole time that you were in, on the life lessons and experience, everything you've learned? How do you use that in this role as a loan originator? Primarily, we do all the loans, but you're very focused on VA. How do you use all that experience to help your fellow service members win?
I would say that my biggest benefit of what it is that I've learned in the Marine Corps is I speak the language. And what I mean by speak the language is the fact that, there's a certain camaraderie that you have with service members that have been there, done it, and gone through everything. Once we start talking about what your MOS and started figuring out where these guys were stationed, or these guys or gals were stationed, what they did, we can kind of connect in that service brotherhood situation. And when you're talking about such a vital or delicate subject like finances, it's a much easier barrier to be able to drop, so that way we can have an actual open conversation about what their budget is, because they feel more comfortable with me about talking about difficult conversations about your credit, about your bank statements, about your pay stubs, about what you do for
and it's very personal.
It's very personal.
Plus a big magnifying glass in your whole situation.
100%. So I'd say the biggest benefit that I have from my Marine Corps service is the fact that they don't feel as if I'm just another pencil pusher or some type of,
advertising trying to get that to click here.
Exactly. Yeah. It's more of, like to get to know my veterans, so that way we can actually have real conversation and they can feel comfortable about asking difficult questions, or actually having, difficult circumstances, depending on their financial, stability or instability, on how like you're the solution.
You're talking into the mirror, right? So you've been in the service, they've been in the service, you've been lost in a VA loan process, they're currently lost in a VA loan process, you've succeeded as a homeowner, they'll succeed as, so it's like you're walking the walk while you're talking the talk with the whole entire process.
Yeah, I'd say, I'd use an example or analogy sometimes with people to say, if you were trying to have a conversation with somebody and trying to connect with clients, or with certain people, if you saw somebody with the Letterman jacket of the high school or the college that you went to, and they had it on, it would be a much easier conversation starter.
You're bonded. At the most,
I know how to start a conversation with these people. I know how to make it to where they're comfortable starting that.
Yeah,
I'd say the great part about the camaraderie of the Marine Corps or the service in general is a lot of those guys are wearing my jacket.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah, very easy to understand. So if you could wave a magic wand, and fix one thing wrong with the entire real estate industry around VA loans and VA lending, what would it be?
I would say the negative connotation that people sometimes have on what goes into a VA loan. A lot of people have this previous history of how bad the VA loan once was, or how difficult it is, or how many different additional inspections, or the VA is always trying to not get the approval for things. A lot of things have changed in the past 10, 20, 50,
30 years. That goes back a long way, and I get it. We have a course, many of you agent friends have probably been to it, but we continue to offer it. It's VA myth busting.
Yep.
And we go through the biggest misconceptions on VA, and we point them out and debunk them. The VA is staffed by veterans, and the loan administration, they're staffed by veterans. They want to make loans to vets, and they try to make deals happen. They try to get things to work. So maybe, we could go on for 2 hours here and talk about, we do.
The presentation can be 2 hours long.
It just turns into a, how do we make that better? And the best way that we can do it is just by example and by education. And that's the biggest thing that we try to deliver to our agent partners. And veterans they're not the primary recipient of that information. They're kind of they're like a secondary benefit, because the more that we could teach agents and get them to kind of drop those myths and those walls around it, the better our veterans can win in the market.
Yeah.
So
I'd say that. And then the other example would be that a lot of veterans associate what they go through with the VA administration, for their disability claims. What they go through for trying to get a certain rating of disability, whatever their percentage may be, or whatever percentage they're shooting for. And they understand how many hurdles go into that, and they associate the VA loan with that disability process.
Getting anything else done is going to be the same. And then I think what people don't understand is that the VA just basically sets out guidelines, and then institutional private lenders, corporations, companies act on those guidelines. And so then they're there to serve. They want the money. They're doing loans to make money. There's no hiding that fact, right?
Absolutely.
So they want to be the best that they could be, and the best customer service they can have, and then make it as easy as possible. So you don't have that with VA medical claims. You actually drive to the VA hospital and do all the VA stuff here at the VA. Totally different in the loan world.
Oh yeah,
because we have third parties that are outside of it. The VA just kind of sets the stage, and then the actors get up and act it.
And I can totally understand why people would associate the two together, and why they wouldn't want to go through it again.
We immediately think red tape.
Yeah,
government, red tape, bureaucracy.
Absolutely.
A bunch of needless forms.
I don't want to buy a house because I don't want to deal with these people.
I had to go through all of this, and I don't want to do that again.
I'm in the process of doing my VA claim right now. I'm a year into my VA claim, and I basically felt as if I'm running in circles.
Haven't moved an inch.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I can understand why people would get so frustrated, and they don't want to look into a VA loan thinking they're one and the same.
Yeah.
But they don't even have to really worry about even talking to the VA.
Some of the most financially set up, successful clients that I've seen come through are ones who have been in the service. You know, they've rotated to different assignments in stateside, some even with deployments, but they'll come and they'll buy a house in, say, Tennessee on their VA loan. 100% financing, super good rate, no PMI, you know, that kind of stuff. And then they relocate to another state. Let's say they get transferred to Georgia, buy a house there, rent out the old Tennessee home. Now they're buying this new Georgia home, live there. And then in a few years, they'll come to Florida. So now they have 2 or 3 rental properties that they have amassed over the last 10 years. So they've all got equity. They've all got positive cash flow. We may or may not be able to, depending on your entitlement, this is a long story. We won't get into it all, but you can buy multiple houses with your VA entitlement. You're not limited to one. So I've seen people that were able to refi their rentals and turn them into a conventional loan, free up their entitlement, go buy a $800,000 house with no down payment, and then they've got 2 or 3 rentals in the background appreciating, paying them monthly, paying down their mortgage, bills and equity. And they've just done it kind of through normal decisions. You know, we need a place to live. Let's use this. Let's figure it out, buy this. We need another place to live. Let's buy this. So it doesn't take as much money as, it doesn't take 20% down. Doesn't take 10. You get a 0% down. You might even get your closing costs covered. You get your contract negotiated right. So lots of good perks to a VA loan. And the whole point of this thing is I just wanted to get your perspective as a veteran first, forgetting the fact that you've ever touched a loan.
Yeah.
Right. I wanted to talk to you about that and kind of say, you know, what can I do? How can I help? What was it like for me getting into it? So.
Yeah, and it really was an eye-opening experience. And I tell people all the time is that I didn't get into this until I was already a previous client.
Yeah.
You know, I had no ties to the mortgage industry. I didn't even have my mortgage license.
You were in the medical field.
I was in the medical field.
Completely different.
Yeah. I'd started this, walked through it, fully understood it after you took the time to kind of walk me through how these steps work. And I really did realize how easy it was to be able to do it because of how great of a benefit it is. Yeah. So if I can help any of those veterans feel that same feeling, oh my gosh, like this is so much easier than I thought it was going to be. And now look at this, you know, this beautiful place that I now own instead of rent.
Yeah. It's also with somebody else.
And, you know, that type of situation just makes me feel great. That's the benefit that I get from it still. And I still work with people that I know very closely that I hold close. So being able to do that for a lot of people and answer those questions for a lot of veterans is very rewarding for me.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, thank you for your service.
I appreciate that, Josh.
To the military and to Swift Home Mortgage here.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
So, yeah, well, that's it. You know, tell us how to reach you and if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how they do that.
Absolutely. So I have a couple different ways to be reached. One, you can call me directly. My cell phone number is 813-712-9030. You can also go to our website or my website at www.getwithdavid.com. And we also have our RAD team email address because myself and another loan officer here named Robert, we are a team. So we're the Robert and David. So we're the RAD team, which is RAD team. Yeah, the RAD team at swifthm.com, which is our email address. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. We'd love to be able to help any veterans that you may know. If you're the service member yourself, or, you know, if you have a family member that, you know, needs to start, you know, working towards that home ownership status. So yeah, we're here to help.
Absolutely. Thanks for checking it out. Hope you found this information useful, and any questions, give us a shout. We're here to help.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.